Ladies and gentlemen, we spend so much of our lives trapped in the prison of other people's opinions. Every move we make, every word we say, every dream we chase, filtered through the fear of what someone might think. We shape ourselves into something smaller, quieter, safer, just to avoid their judgment. And slowly, without even realizing it, we stop living for ourselves. We live for their approval. But here is the truth: no matter what you do, people will always have something to say. If you succeed, they will say you were lucky. If you fail, they will say they knew it all along. If you follow your heart, they will say you are selfish. If you don't, they will say you are weak. You cannot win in their eyes, so stop trying. People's opinions are not your identity. That's the first truth you need to let sink in. From childhood, we are conditioned to see ourselves through the eyes of others. Parents, teachers, friends, relatives, they all have opinions about who we are, what we should do, and how we should behave. And because we are young and seeking guidance, we absorb their words as facts. If someone says we are not good enough, we start to believe it. If someone calls us talented, we carry that label as if it defines us completely. But here's the thing: neither the praise nor the criticism is who we truly are. Those are just opinions, and opinions are shaped by personal experiences, biases, and beliefs. When you begin to understand this, you start separating your true self from the noise around you. Think about it: the same action can be praised by one person and condemned by another. That means the action is not the problem, the perception is. People see life through their own lens, which is colored by their upbringing, culture, fears, and desires. Their opinion of you says more about them than it does about you. If you make decisions based on what others think, you become a mirror for their expectations instead of a reflection of your own soul. You wear what they like, not what makes you feel confident. You choose a career that impresses them, not one that excites you. You speak in a way that keeps you safe, and not in a way that shares your truth. Over time, this constant performance drains you. You start to feel like a stranger in your own life, because deep down, you know you're not living as yourself. The danger of tying your identity to people's opinions is that their opinions can change without warning. Today, they think you're brilliant. Tomorrow, they decide you've lost your touch. If your self-worth rises and falls with their approval, you'll spend your life in emotional instability. You will never feel secure because your worth will always depend on something you cannot control. Breaking free from this starts with self-awareness. Ask yourself, who am I when no one is watching? What do I believe about myself that is independent of what others say? Your answers to these questions will help you build a foundation that no one else can shake. Once you have clarity on your values, strengths, and passions, you can live by them even when others don't understand. You also have to be okay with being misunderstood. Not everyone will get you, and that's perfectly fine. You are not here to be universally liked. You are here to be authentically yourself. Some people will see your confidence as arrogance. Some will interpret your silence as weakness. Let them. You are not responsible for adjusting your soul to fit their narrative. When you stop identifying yourself by people's opinions, you unlock a new level of freedom. You can try new things without fear of failure, because failure no longer means I am worthless. It simply means I am learning. You can take bold steps toward your dreams without waiting for applause, because your motivation comes from within. And most importantly, you can finally see yourself clearly, without the distortion of others' judgments. That's when life starts to feel lighter, richer, and truly your own. Approval is temporary, self-worth is permanent. The applause you hear today can vanish tomorrow, not because you changed, but because people's attention is fleeting. Human nature is unpredictable. We admire someone one day and move on to the next trend the very next week. When you tie your value to someone clapping for you, you're giving away the keys to your happiness. Approval is like a gust of wind. It can lift you for a moment, but it's never strong enough to keep you flying forever. That's why building your sense of worth on it is dangerous. You become addicted to the high of being liked, followed, and validated, and when that attention fades, so does your confidence. Self-worth, on the other hand, is steady. It doesn't depend on the mood of the crowd or the number of likes on a post. It's built from knowing who you are, what you stand for, and what you deserve. When you have self-worth, you don't have to chase approval because you already approve of yourself. You can walk into a room full of people who don't understand you and still feel grounded. You can face criticism without crumbling because your value isn't up for debate. Think of all the times in life when you felt on top of the world because someone praised you. Maybe it was a teacher saying you were talented, a boss appreciating your work, or a friend calling you inspiring. Those moments feel incredible, but they fade. And if you've been depending on them for your sense of identity, you end up chasing the next one, like a performer waiting for the next applause break. It's exhausting because you're constantly performing for an audience that might not even be watching. Building self-worth means turning inward instead of outward. It's about asking yourself, do I respect the choices I'm making? Do I believe in the path I'm walking? When the answer is yes, you don't need the world to nod in agreement. You can celebrate your wins quietly without broadcasting them just to get recognition. You can make mistakes openly without the fear that people will withdraw their love. Self-worth gives you that stability. It's the anchor that keeps you from drifting in the storm of public opinion. Approval is often conditional. People support you as long as your actions match their preferences or benefit them in some way. The moment you step outside their expectations, their tone can change. They may distance themselves, criticize you, or even try to pull you down. If your confidence depends on their approval, you'll be forced to bend and twist yourself just to keep it. But when your confidence comes from self-worth, you can disagree with people and still feel whole. You can stand alone in your decision and still sleep peacefully at night. Society often teaches us to equate approval with success. We grow up thinking that if people are happy with us, it means we're doing something right. But history shows that many of the greatest minds, leaders, and innovators faced disapproval before they were celebrated. If they had abandoned their vision to please everyone, they would have faded into the background. The truth is, approval often comes late and sometimes never at all. That's why it can't be the fuel you run on. Self-worth is not loud or flashy. It doesn't always get you applause, but it gives you something better, peace. It allows you to live without constantly seeking validation, to try things because you want to, not because someone else expects it. It makes you resilient when life knocks you down, because your worth isn't shaken by setbacks. And once you have it, you realize that losing approval isn't the end of the world, but losing yourself. Worth is no one can live your life for you. People can give advice, share their experiences, and even try to guide your decisions. But at the end of the day, you are the one who has to wake up every morning and face the reality of your choices. Too often, we let others' opinions dictate the direction we take, thinking that somehow they know what's best for us. They might mean well, but they cannot feel what you feel. They cannot dream what you dream. And they certainly cannot carry the weight of the regrets you might have if you live by their rules instead of your own. Every person's journey is unique, shaped by their personality, circumstances, and vision. That's why trying to live according to someone else's blueprint will always leave you feeling out of place. When you let others decide how you should live, you give away your power. It might seem easier in the moment to follow their path because it feels safe and approved, but over time, you start to lose connection with your own desires. You become like a passenger in your own life, watching as someone else drives you to a destination you never chose. And when you finally arrive, you might realize you don't even want to be there. The frustration that comes with that is far heavier than the fear of taking risks for yourself. You have one life, and every choice you make shapes the story you leave behind. If you spend it trying to satisfy everyone else's expectations, you'll always feel the silent ache of wondering what could have happened if you had been brave enough to follow your own heart. There will always be people who think they know better. Some might be driven by genuine concern, while others are influenced by their own fears and limitations. They project those onto you, not realizing that what didn't work for them might work for you, and what feels impossible to them might be entirely achievable for you. It's not that you should reject all advice or never listen to anyone. Wisdom can come from many sources, and sometimes someone else's experience can save you from unnecessary mistakes. But the difference lies in knowing how to filter it. You can take what resonates, consider what might be useful, and still move forward in a way that feels true to you. The final decision should always belong to you, because you are the one who will live with the outcome. When you make your own choices, you also take ownership of your mistakes. That might sound intimidating, but it's actually empowering. Mistakes you make for yourself teach you far more than mistakes you make while following someone else's orders. They shape your resilience, sharpen your decision-making, and give you confidence in your ability to handle whatever comes next. Every step, whether it leads to success or failure, becomes part of your growth instead of a step you took simply to keep someone else happy. There will be moments when standing by your choices will be uncomfortable. You might face criticism, disappointment, or even isolation from people who don't agree with your path. But those moments are also the ones that define you. They test your commitment to yourself and remind you that your loyalty should first be to the life you want to create. You cannot outsource that responsibility to your friends, your family, or society at large. They can support you, but they cannot walk the road for you. The steps are yours, the journey is yours, and the meaning you find along the way is something only you can claim. Fear of judgment limits your potential. It makes you second-guess yourself before you even take the first step. You start overthinking every move, imagining the criticisms before they even come, and that hesitation keeps you stuck in the same place. The dreams you have, the ideas you imagine, the goals you want to chase, they all stay locked inside because you're afraid someone will disapprove. Fear is like a wall you build with your own hands, brick by brick, until you can't see beyond it. What makes it even worse is that most of the time, the judgment you're afraid of is exaggerated in your own mind. People are far too busy with their own lives to analyze yours in the way you think they do, yet the fear still holds you back. When you allow the fear of judgment to control you, you play small in every area of life. You take fewer risks, even when those risks could lead to something amazing. You keep your voice down, even when you have something important to say. You stay in situations that make you unhappy because leaving would mean inviting comments and opinions you don't want to hear. Every time you let that fear win, you shrink a little more until one day you barely recognize yourself. The opportunities pass by and you tell yourself you'll try next time, but deep down you know that next time will never come unless you change the way you think. Fear of judgment often comes from a need to be accepted. We all want to belong, and we think that avoiding criticism will help us fit in. But the truth is, belonging isn't about being perfect in everyone's eyes. It's about being real in the right people's eyes. The people who genuinely care about you won't tear you down for trying, and those who do were never your people to begin with. The sooner you understand this, the freer you become. You start to see that the judgment you fear is just noise, unpleasant maybe, but harmless if you refuse to let it in. The most damaging part of this fear is that it stops you before you even begin. You don't send that message, you don't apply for that opportunity, you don't share that idea because you've already decided in your head that someone will mock it. This is how potential dies, not because you weren't capable, but because you never gave yourself the chance to find out. If you look back on your life and see a trail of moments you let slip away because you were worried about what others might say, you'll realize how much you've been holding yourself back. Pushing past this fear starts with remembering that judgment is inevitable. No matter what you do, someone will have something to say. If you succeed, they'll analyze how you got there. If you fail, they'll point it out. If you try something different, they'll question why. Since you can't escape it, you might as well live in a way that makes you proud. This doesn't mean you have to be reckless or ignore constructive feedback. It means you stop letting imagined opinions decide your future. Every person who has achieved something worthwhile has faced judgment. The difference is they didn't let it dictate their actions. They understood that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's moving forward despite it. The voice in your head telling you to stay small is not protecting you, it's trapping you. You break free by taking action before the fear has time to convince you otherwise, by reminding yourself that other people's opinions do not define your worth, and by choosing to value your own growth over their approval. True freedom comes from self-acceptance. You can change your clothes, your job, your city, and even your circle of friends. But if you have not accepted yourself, you will always feel caged. Many people think freedom is about doing whatever you want without rules. But real freedom is the ability to live as yourself without shame. It is waking up in the morning and not feeling the need to wear a mask just to be liked. It is knowing that your flaws, your strengths, your past, and your dreams are all part of the same whole, and you don't have to apologize for any of it. When you accept yourself, you stop wasting energy on pretending to be someone you're not, and you start investing that energy into becoming the best version of who you already are. Self-acceptance does not mean you think you are perfect. It means you are honest with yourself about who you are, even about the parts that still need work. You acknowledge your weaknesses without letting them define you, and you celebrate your strengths without feeling guilty about them. This kind of honesty brings peace, because you are no longer at war with yourself. You do not feel the pressure to constantly prove your worth to others, because you have already proven it to yourself. So much of the stress people carry comes from the gap between who they really are and who they think they have to be. They create a version of themselves that will be accepted by society, their family, or their peers, and they play that role so well that they start losing touch with their real identity. But living like that is exhausting, because you are constantly performing, constantly editing yourself, constantly scanning the room for signs of approval. Self-acceptance removes that weight. You don't have to calculate every word or action to avoid judgment, because you are okay with being misunderstood. When you accept yourself, you also make better choices. You are no longer chasing opportunities that look good on the outside, but feel empty on the inside. You are no longer forcing relationships that drain you just to avoid being alone. You understand your own needs, values, and boundaries, and you honor them without guilt. This clarity keeps you from getting lost in the expectations of others, because you know what truly matters to you. There is also a deeper kind of confidence that comes with self-acceptance. It is not loud or showy. It does not need constant validation. It is steady and quiet, a kind of inner strength that stays with you whether people are praising you or criticizing you. You can walk away from situations that do not serve you without questioning your worth. You can admit when you are wrong without feeling like a failure, because you know one mistake does not define you. You can stand in front of people who disapprove of you and still feel whole, because you have already given yourself the approval you were looking for. True freedom is living without the chains of self-rejection. It is not about convincing everyone else to like you. It is about liking yourself enough that their opinion no longer controls you. It is about embracing your uniqueness instead of trying to hide it, about owning your story instead of letting someone else rewrite it. And when you reach that place, you stop waiting for life to give you permission to be yourself. You simply live. Criticism often reflects others' insecurities. People see the world through the filter of their own experiences, fears, and limitations. And when they criticize you, they often reveal more about themselves than about you. Someone who feels threatened by confidence might label you arrogant. Someone who is afraid of change might call your dreams unrealistic. Someone who is unhappy with their own progress might downplay your achievements to make themselves feel better. This doesn't mean all criticism is useless, but it does mean you have to learn to separate feedback that helps you grow from comments that are simply projections of another person's inner struggles. Many people criticize without truly understanding what they are talking about. They react from emotion, not from insight. They see you take a risk they would never dare to take. And instead of examining their own fear, they try to make you doubt yourself. It's easier for them to pull you back down to their level than to confront the fact that they are holding themselves back. This is why you can't take every word to heart. If you do, you'll find yourself constantly shrinking just to make others comfortable. When you begin to recognize that some criticism is rooted in insecurity, you start to take it less personally. You understand that their comment is not an accurate reflection of your worth or your abilities. It's a reflection of their current mindset. This awareness gives you the power to respond differently. Instead of becoming defensive or discouraged, you can choose to either ignore it or, if there's something useful in it, take what helps and leave the rest. Criticism that comes from insecurity often has a certain tone. It feels more like an attack than an observation. It focuses on tearing you down rather than helping you improve. It may be vague, lacking any real solutions, because the goal isn't to make you better. It's to make the critic feel better about themselves. When you spot this, you can protect your energy by not engaging with it deeply. The less you allow that negativity to settle in your mind, the freer you are to keep moving forward. This doesn't mean you should ignore every piece of negative feedback. Some criticism is valuable, even if it's hard to hear. The key is to look at the intention and the content. Is it specific? Does it offer a path to improvement? Does it come from someone who genuinely wants to see you succeed? If the answer is yes, then it's worth considering. But if it's coming from a place of jealousy, fear, or bitterness, it's not worth carrying around. The more you grow, the more criticism you will face. People who have never met you will have opinions about your choices. Some will feel inspired, others will feel threatened. You can't control that. What you can control is how much weight you give to their words. If you base your decisions on the insecurities of others, you will live a smaller, safer life than the one you are capable of living. But if you see their criticism for what it truly is, a mirror reflecting their own inner world, you can keep walking your path without letting their limitations become your own. Living authentically inspires others. When you choose to show up as your real self without the filters and masks designed to please everyone, you give silent permission for others to do the same. People are drawn to honesty because it is rare in a world that constantly pushes us to fit in. Your courage to be unapologetically you becomes a light for someone else who is tired of pretending. They see you taking up space without asking for approval, and they begin to believe that maybe they can too. This is how authenticity spreads, not through preaching, but through living as proof that it's possible. Authenticity is magnetic because it's rooted in truth. You are not hiding your quirks, your imperfections, or your dreams to make yourself more palatable. You are not bending your values to avoid conflict. You are not performing a role for the sake of being accepted. People notice when someone is genuine, and they feel safe around that energy. It makes them feel like they don't have to guard themselves so tightly. In a way, your authenticity doesn't just liberate you, it creates space for others to breathe. Living authentically doesn't mean everyone will like you. In fact, it might mean some people will dislike you even more, because you no longer fit into the version of you they are comfortable with. But the ones who stay, the ones who support you, will be the ones who truly value you for who you are, not for who you pretend to be. That kind of connection is deeper, stronger, and far more rewarding than superficial approval. The most inspiring people aren't perfect, they're real. They talk about their struggles, they admit their failures, and they share their lessons without dressing them up. That honesty resonates because it feels human. When you live authentically, you show others that they don't have to wait until they are flawless to be worthy of love, respect, and belonging. You remind them that growth happens in the open, not behind a mask. There's also a strength in authenticity that can't be faked. It comes from knowing that you can stand in your truth even when it's uncomfortable. You're not constantly afraid of being found out. Because there's nothing to expose, you've already put yourself out there. That kind of security is inspiring to watch because it's rare. Most people spend so much energy managing their image that seeing someone refuse to play that game feels like a relief. Your authenticity can change the way someone else sees themselves. Maybe it's the way you speak honestly about a mistake you made, showing them that failure isn't the end. Maybe it's the way you choose a path that others said was impossible, proving that permission isn't required to chase a dream. Maybe it's just the quiet way you refuse to compromise your values, even when it would be easier to do so. Every time you live in alignment with your true self, you plant a seed in someone else's mind that says, if they can do it, so can I. The world doesn't need more perfect performances, it needs more real people. When you embrace who you are and live in that truth daily, you create a ripple effect. Some may resist it, but many will find courage in it. Your life becomes a silent reminder that authenticity is not only possible, but worth the risk. And that is the kind of influence that can leave a lasting mark on the people around you. You cannot control what others think, but you can control how you respond. No matter how hard you try to explain yourself, no matter how much you work to be understood, some people will still choose to see you through their own assumptions. They will interpret your actions in ways you never intended, assign motives you never had, and sometimes judge you without even knowing the full story. Trying to manage every opinion is an impossible task, and it will drain your time, energy, and peace. The sooner you accept that people's thoughts are outside your control, the sooner you free yourself from the endless loop of trying to please everyone. What you can control is your reaction. You can choose to let their words sink into you and shape how you see yourself, or you can choose to acknowledge them and keep walking. Your power lies in that choice. You do not have to fight every misunderstanding, nor do you have to convince every critic. Not every battle is worth your energy, and learning to walk away from unnecessary ones is a sign of strength, not weakness. Controlling your response also means staying grounded in your own truth. When you know who you are and what you stand for, you don't feel the need to adjust your character based on someone's opinion. You can listen to feedback with an open mind, but you won't let it push you into becoming someone you're not. That kind of stability makes you less reactive and more intentional in the way you deal with people. Some opinions will be harsh and they might sting at first. That's natural, but you can decide whether to carry that sting with you or to let it fade. You can choose to see criticism as an opportunity to reflect, or you can choose to dismiss it when it's clear it has no value for your growth. You can't stop people from speaking, but you can stop their words from controlling your next step. It's also important to recognize that everyone has the right to their perspective, even if it's wrong. You cannot rewrite their experiences, and you cannot erase their biases. Expecting the world to see you exactly as you see yourself is unrealistic. The real freedom comes from knowing that their opinion doesn't define you unless you allow it to. That freedom makes you calmer, more focused, and more resilient in the face of negativity. When you stop trying to control what others think, you create space for what truly matters: your own growth, your own goals, and your own peace of mind. You stop wasting time on rehearsing the perfect response or crafting an image that will please everyone. Instead, you put that time into things that actually move you forward. And when you respond with intention instead of reacting out of emotion, you keep control of your narrative. The way you respond sets the tone for how people continue to treat you. If you meet every opinion with defensiveness, you invite more conflict. If you respond with clarity and self-respect, you teach others that you are not easily swayed. You show them that while they are free to have their thoughts, you are free to live on your own terms. That quiet confidence is often more powerful than any argument you could make, because it proves that you are not dependent on their approval to keep moving.